Whether you're a seasoned vet of the payments industry or a brand new rookie who just heard the term dual pricing for the first time, you're in the right place. This is the only podcast that shares the strategies and stories behind selling merchant services, all from the perspective of those on the front lines. Welcome to AgentFirst.
All right, welcome everybody to the AgentFirst Podcast. This episode is kind of a special one for us. Mm-hmm. It's just you and me this time. This is, for those who don't know, I'm Justin Volrath. This is my wife, Nini Volrath. We've been married 29 years almost. Later this month.
Yep, a couple more weeks.
So I think this podcast is always about how to inspire others, right? That's what this is about. This isn't really meant to be commercial about PayCompass or promoting us or anything like that. And obviously PayCompass is our company, mm-hmm. but really this is, meant to inspire others, trying to tell stories of overcoming adversity. Usually we have agents on here. But this one's going to be a little bit different. We're going to tell the story of our story, right? And we've done that a little bit in the past, but this is going to be maybe a little bit deeper on that regard and kind of some of the feelings and emotions and stuff like that went into this. So let's rewind back, though, to when we started dating. I was working in the septic business, right? Installing septic systems, right? I was number one in the number two business, as we used to say. And then I got into real estate later on and had a very successful career there. And finally kind of felt like, hey, things were going well. Mm-hmm. We had our house, we had kids. I remember you saying, being rewarded for my efforts, that sort of thing. And then that day came where I said, hey, honey, I think I'm going to leave this career making tons of money and go do something different. So
yeah. You didn't say that.
Right.
You said, Nini, we're going to go have lunch with Dad today. And I said, okay, let's go say hi to Dad, have some lunch. And then they sat me down and then I started listening to them talk. And then I realized, oh, this isn't just about lunch.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a loaded one. Yeah. So let's talk through that. What was your, because obviously we're going from 100% commission role with real estate sales, right? To now 100% commission sales doing credit card processing. So it feels similar, right? Mm-hmm. But drastically different. So what was your thoughts? What was your feeling kind of in those days?
My first thought was my heart kind of dropped again. And not again, but in general, thinking, oh my gosh, I don't want to start again.
Right.
Because when we did start, when you started in real estate, we did start all over from scratch. And knowing about commissions and knowing that, you only eat what you fish, right? I don't know, is that the saying?
Eat what you kill.
What you kill,
but
sorry.
Yeah, that's a softer version, sure. Yeah.
And I knew that would probably be what would happen again. And so I was kind of just like, oh, I don't want to have to start all over again. But the promise of, us not having to work all hours of the day, being with the kids more, and the residuals. I thought if he can do this, that would be wonderful.
Right. And what did you think was obviously I could talk all day long about the advantages of the credit card processing business, but what did you think was an advantage of that, like of moving away from real estate into, the credit card business? And you were a stay-at-home mom.
I was.
But doing so much more than that. You were helping me out in the real estate business like crazy. You were going to showings with me. You were very much a part of the business as well.
Yep.
But now we're going to go into something where, it's completely different.
Yeah.
What did you see as the advantage of the credit card business, of merchant services versus real estate?
I guess, like I said, the time. The time was the advantage. We weren't going to do nights and weekends,
Yeah.
I was going to try to help you out, I guess, as much as I could, but I really didn't know the industry either,
It's way different,
And then, the residuals, because, when you're in real estate, you sell a house, that's it. That's all you have for commission, knowing that the residuals, you can build that, and then also knowing that you could sell it, eventually, and we could have, some kind of savings or something at least.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That for sure.
So it's funny because if you rewind back, and obviously you know the story, but when we closed down our septic business. We were selling products and services all over the Midwest, right? I knew I wanted to go into real estate. This, this goes back to 2007. I was, studying to get my real estate license, right? We were looking for a part-time job just to get some money in. Mm-hmm. I found an ad on Craigslist, started going out and collecting merchant services statements for a company in New York. That ended up being a shyster of a company. Wouldn't teach me anything, wouldn't tell me anything about how it all worked. Mm-hmm. And then my dad started working, doing the same thing, ended up finding Heartland Payment Systems, went there. I went into real estate. 3 years later, we're kind of come back together, right? Yep. Because I saw the residual income piece of it, right?
Exactly.
And so I think the part that the story I love to tell from kind of taking off from there is, I think everybody thinks that, hey, sales is sales, right? Sales is, you can sell real estate, you can sell cars, you can really sell anything. But this was a completely different approach. This was, you don't have customers coming to you. You have to go out and find those customers. You have to find referral sources. You have to find partnerships. You have to go cold calling, whatever that may be. And it took a little while for me to get good at it, right? It took a little while for me to adapt. I've always had the gift of gab, and I have no problem being outgoing, but I didn't have that knowledge of the phrase I think we've used many times is I had paralysis by analysis.
Yes.
I was so used to being the guy with all the answers, whether it was on the septic side of it or real estate. That first 6 months, I didn't know anything, and I was scared that the merchants were going to ask me a tough question, right? Mm-hmm. And so, what did you think those first? Because it took like 6 months for anything to really start happening, right?
Yeah.
For it to really start.
And I think you were paused also because you wanted to learn everything before you could sell.
Right.
And I think you were kind of paused, mentally. Even though you didn't verbalize it, I think that for a little bit you were paused. So those first couple paychecks were, woo. We were eating ramen for sure.
Yeah. Right. Well, and that's a great thing to talk about, right? Is I think it's easy to look now, 18 years later or whatever, and kind of say like, oh wow, you guys got great residuals. Look what you've built, whatever. But let's rewind back there. Let's talk about it because there's agents out there right now who are getting started, maybe in their first year, maybe with the wrong company, maybe with a manager who's not really showing them the ropes that's listening to this right now.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh man, I'm right there too. I'm struggling. And so it's easy to look at us now and say they've made it, but do you have some stories or thoughts or ideas of those? I definitely have some, but I'd love to hear.
For me, after being in it with you for so long and seeing a lot of salespeople, honestly, I think if you're just consistent, it's whatever consistency works for you.
Right.
But if you are consistent, I think that it will work out. It really will.
Right.
You just got to figure out what the pattern is or what you really want to do about your sales.
Right.
In general.
But what about those early days? Do you remember any stories of those days, of things we had to do to overcome that together?
Gosh, I don't know.
I remember us taking the kids' piggy banks and quote unquote borrowing the money for the kids' piggy banks,
of course,
so that we could get some food,
like
just for groceries, right?
Yeah.
I remember
borrowing my brother's car.
I remember, my car had crapped out, and in this business, you have to be mobile. You have to be out, meeting with people all the time. Yeah. I remember your brother. He did some kind of buying and selling of cars, and he had one, and he let us borrow that car for a little while. Yeah. I remember it was a black Mercedes, looked like something like a Sheik would drive. It was this big black
gas guzzler too.
It was diesel. It was diesel.
Diesel. That's right.
It was just so loud and obnoxious. But I had to have something to drive around, right?
Yeah, that's true.
There for a while, I couldn't get the engine to turn off. Remember that? So, I'll also never forget this part, and this is where it kind of turns a little more serious or solemn in this. Is that I remember, we had a great lifestyle in real estate. We had done very well. Now that it's shifted, we're past any sort of real estate commissions coming in. We're building this. We've got all these bills. And we couldn't afford our car anymore. We were trying to get through it. And I remember having our car repossessed right there in our driveway while I was playing in the front yard with the kids and having to explain that to them and the pain of that, but the support that you were there to say, hey, we're going to figure this out together. We're going to get through this, right? And we did. We did. We figured it out. We made it happen. But it's easy to look at it down the road and say, hey, we made it. But to survive through those times and not pivot and just say, hey, I can go back to real estate any time. Yeah. But to stay true to that desire, that passion for the residuals, right? For the what that lifestyle could be. Because for me, it was never about just the money or the residuals. It was about the time. It was about the financial freedom that came about it. And that more than anything is what this is all about, is that, once you achieve, you're making enough money that you have financial freedom, means that you have the ability to make the decisions that you want to without having to worry about, the money side of it, right?
I totally agree.
I think Post Malone now calls it the FU money, right? Is that right?
Yes, he does.
Yeah. So that's financial freedom, right? Yeah. And so, and joking around, but I mean, the decision to say, hey, I'm going to take off on Friday and go with my kids to the zoo, or my daughter has a dance recital. I'm gonna make sure I'm there. Oh, the ability to do those things, or hey, you know what? We're just gonna go on an anniversary trip. Let's go. It doesn't, it's okay. Yeah. You when you've achieved those places, whether it's through a W-2 job, a 1099, your own business, whatever it is, that's true financial freedom, is that ability to do those things, right?
I agree. Yep.
Yeah. Fast forward now, we're at Heartland. I'm doing pretty well. Things are growing. We get an opportunity for promotion, moves us down here to Arizona. Which is where we're at now. So that's now 13 years ago now. 13 years. Working for Heartland, went through that whole transition of Heartland to global. I left Heartland. I think most people thought I was going straight over to Beyond, but that was not the truth. Yeah. I actually had a job for about 6 weeks in between. That didn't work out for me. But I remember that was the first job where I ever had to go into a real office. And I remember being like, this is how it is. I never did that before. It was always like I was out in the field in a truck or driving around seeing people and stuff like that. I never really worked in an office environment. But then, I think where things really took off for me, career-wise, is when I then joined Beyond, who most people know as Get Beyond. Bob Carr's kind of second foray. I learned a tremendous amount there, did a lot there, and got that opportunity to really, I was a senior vice president of sales there, overseeing a couple hundred people. And you were by my side a lot, right? And we did a lot of things together. We visited a lot of people together. We went a lot of events together. What did you think about that time? I mean, I know there's a lot there, right? There's a lot about that, but did you feel like, oh, this is it. This is where this is going to be the rest of the career? What did you feel like?
I did, actually.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I really did.
Yeah.
You were really happy, and you were able to help a lot of agents and guide them, and, we thought you were going to be there forever.
And as did I. I did too. I mean, and it really wasn't until, I started realizing that there was some different ways to go about this, right? I really started realizing that, and this is the genesis of what, created PayCompass, was this feeling that there's a better way to do this. There's a simpler way to do this. This concept of, at the time I didn't understand it, what we now call AgentFirst, but then was just this thought process that it's about the salespeople. You've heard me say this a million times. Nothing happens without a sale. I don't care what it is in this room, right? These coffee mugs, that on the wall, the lights, these mics, they all had to be sold from somebody to somebody to somebody to somebody. There's multiple sales made. Nothing happens without a sale. But yet salespeople are often looked at as like the lowest rung on the ladder. Yeah. There's jokes about salespeople and used car salesmen and door-to-door salesmen. And yeah, there's many that deserve that knock, of course, but it truly is a burning passion inside of me to say, like, there's a way we can do this better. And I would come home to you and we'd talk about it a lot. These just concerns of what I was seeing start to happen. The focus was changing, right? And I just didn't feel right about it. And so we parted ways with Beyond in October of 2019.
Yes.
How did you feel about that at the time? What did you think? I mean, here we thought this was forever, right? We could see it coming. We really felt like that was going to be it. How did you feel at that time?
I kind of was scared, actually, because I thought, what next? And I didn't know if you were burnt out of what you were doing.
Right.
Because I thought, well, he's been managing a lot of people for a long time, and it's a lot of work.
I had 350 people I was managing.
And it was a lot of work.
Yeah.
And but I knew that you were a good salesman, and that you could probably find another job or do something that would have made you happy again.
Right. Right. And that's really what I think. A lot of people have asked me, like, "Oh, you left to go start PayCompass," which is not the truth at all, right?
Nope.
The truth is that I just wanted to find somewhere that really reinforced that passion that I had, that feeling that the salesperson should come first. Their needs should be paramount. Their needs should be looked at all angles, right? I've been the guy driving down the street, steering wheel with under one knee. You're trying to drive with your knee and scarf down cheeseburger with the other hand. You got your phone on your shoulder trying to return a call real quick. You're late for an appointment and you're oh my gosh, I totally forgot that guy wanted his bank account changed. What do I do now? And getting met with resistance of the easy path.
Yeah.
Hey, we've got policies, we've got structure, and just like, there's gotta be better ways we can do this, right? Yeah. The constant conversations of, and I don't mean this is anything against Beyond. This is just the industry as a whole, right? Mm-hmm. This is not amazing times Beyond, amazing people Beyond. I learned so much, but this is more about the industry as a whole and this lack of focus there. And so I spent the next 3-4 months, you and I did, interviewing tons of companies, flying all over the country, lots of meetings, lots of conversations, lots of job offers. I was blessed to have that. We had a lot of connections, a lot of people that did that. But we just couldn't find that place that really matched that feeling, that desire of what we wanted to build, what we wanted to do, right? And that was this concept that at the time wasn't defined, but the AgentFirst concept, right? And so we decided, hey, why not? We can do this. We can figure this out. I met with a couple of my mentors, chatted with them about what does this look like? How do you do this? What are the next steps? Mm-hmm. Got some ideas, got some direction. And January 1st, 2020, we launched PayCompass, right? Well, funny story, side story I love to tell everybody is that it was actually supposed to be Compass Pay originally, right?
Yep.
We both liked that name. That's what we were going to go with. You look at all my original notes, it's Compass Pay.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is my plans, my goals, everything was all Compass Pay. But that URL was $35,000 to buy CompassPay.com. And I was able to negotiate PayCompass down to $3,500. And so we became PayCompass, right?
Yep.
So here we are. We've decided we're going to do this. We're working out of the corner of our bedroom. What do you remember our goal for year one?
You and I discussed it, and then like the whole thing, like I said earlier about you managing a lot of people and maybe getting burnt out. And so you told me, I think I can do this. Let's just start out, I think about a team of 35.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. I said, that sounds doable, and you're like, well, let's start there and do that.
Let's get 30, 35 for the first year. Spoiler alert, we had a lot more than that in the first year. We had 35 in the first 3 weeks. And all of a sudden it was, okay, this is taking off like crazy, right? And so, and I really think this is the part where, this gets into a little bit of a, why did we do it? What caused things to take off so quickly? There were 3 things, that I really wanted to change about the industry, and I still to this day want to change. It's what I'm passionate about. It's what I think we're doing at PayCompass is that the 3 big things were, number one is, huge availability of products, right? Is that concept of what we call the PayCompass toolbox, but it doesn't matter where you're at, just a wide array of products, right? The concept of having that full alignment of products, all these products, so that when you sat down with a merchant, you could offer anything was paramount to us, right? And,
sure.
It makes it harder on our team, of course, because now they have to support all these different products and understand. But again, the agent-first mindset kind of brought us to that.
Yes.
Number 2 was then the ability to be able to train on those products and provide support on those products. Again, if you have the most amazing products in the world, but nobody knows how to use them or how to troubleshoot them, it's worthless, right? And so knowing that, we needed to build out an internal team that was there to support everybody from the beginning all the way through, whether it's pre-sales all the way through 10 years down the road, it doesn't matter. But building that team that at first we didn't think we needed to. First we thought we could rely upon vendors and outside partners, but we realized quickly we could not.
Yeah.
And fast forward today, there's dozens of people on those teams supporting our agents and our merchants, every day. But third part of that, the 3 things we wanted to really solve, and by far the most important of the 3, was the ability for people to make great income, but protect that income long term, right? And that was the big one. Yep. That's the big one. And how do you do that, right? How do you, everybody's got, hey, my buy rates are this, my Schedule A, as it's called in our industry, is everybody's fairly competitive on that. Everybody for the most part, there's a whole nother podcast on this. Most people offer lifetime residuals, but there's some gotcha clauses out there, right? And so I think for us, the biggest thing was we literally met with multiple attorneys to get our contract written the way we wanted to. Some attorneys wouldn't write it the way we wanted it, right? They wouldn't do it the way we wanted because they didn't feel like it protected us enough, and we wanted to protect the agents. And so I think the biggest thing we did that I'd love to, for anyone out there listening, any ISO owner, any payments owner, I challenge you to do the same thing, which is that truly protecting the agent in every way. Mm-hmm. We know that as long as we own the company, we're going to do the right thing. But what happens the day we sell the company? What happens if we get hit by a cement mixer on the way home and somebody else takes over the company and they want to change things? Making sure they're contractually protected in that contract is of the utmost importance. And that's things like the survivorship clause that's in our agent agreement that ensures that agents are protected and their lifetime residuals carry on to their heirs if they pass away. It is critical, and it's something we really want to change in the industry, and I hope we do.
I agree. Especially I was stay-at-home mom for all those years. You were the single income, in our household. And if somebody, if you did sign with somebody and they claimed that they had that and I lost you, I don't know, it would have been really hard on our family. Well, and
that was the one of the big really catalyst for me was I had a friend who had passed away who had great residuals. The company he worked for paid those for a while. That company got acquired, and his wife then was cut off and no longer had this income. And we kind of came together and helped take care of her in many ways, but I didn't want that to ever happen to anyone. And I see contracts all the time that there's nothing in there. There's policies, which policies can be changed, right? But there's nothing in the contract that really, truly protects them, which I think was the big thing for us is that, again, wide array of products, the toolbox of products, the training, the solutions, the support of those products, and then creating that structure that allows you to, I can make a lot of money, but gosh, this money better be protected or otherwise it means nothing, right? At the end of the day.
And you've worked hard for it,
Yeah, those people have.
You earn it.
It should be their asset. If you pass away, you don't lose your house. They don't come take your car, right? It's your asset. You own it, and that should be that as well. So. Well, I think that's a good kind of style. I could go on for hours on this, right? I know. I can get on my soapbox and talk for hours, but I think that's a good. I really truly challenge everybody in the industry to, if you're a leader at any sort of ISO, any sort of processor, to do the same because we all can together. We can change the industry together for sure. All right. Thanks for being here. Thanks to everybody for coming to another wonderful episode of the AgentFirst Podcast. Thanks very much. See you next time.
Thanks.